All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the 10th episode of the Scoops podcast. I am joined by two very special guests, two good friends of mine, Chaz Kawamura and Jeremy Gonzalez. Go ahead and say what's up, guys.
What's going on, guys? Daniel, thanks for
how's it
having us,
going?
man.
How's it going, everybody?
Of course, man. I'm super excited to have you guys. Yeah, super excited for you guys to be on this. Jeremy, the sports editor of the student-led newspaper at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, the Bulletin, is super chill, super great writer and knowledgeable in the sports. And then Chaz Kawamura, a staff reporter on that newspaper and also starting his own sports page called the Let's Go Sports Show, something I'm super excited to be witness to and to be able to follow. So, I mean, keep your ears to the ground for that.
I'm trying to be like Daniel's podcast. I'm trying to get to that level. That's the goal.
When we grow up, we want to be like Daniel. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, we both want to be like Daniel. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. That means a lot. All right. And I know it's all coming out your guys' ass, but thank you.
Hey, you don't know that, so.
You're right. Might be. But yeah, with intros out the way, I mean, I know you guys are super excited to talk basketball, and I know I am. If you guys want to get straight into it.
Yeah,
let's go. Let's get into this.
All right, cool. First thing on the agenda, and something that, I mean, has taken the sports world and the NBA by storm, is Blake Griffin being bought out by the Pistons and being signed by the Brooklyn Nets. And I mean, just an incredible signing, something that I think a lot of people were kind of expecting. Everyone was saying Brooklyn or LA, but I felt like Brooklyn just made a little bit more sense. And at the same time, I feel like Blake gives Brooklyn a certain versatility that they didn't have without him. With two lineups now, you can either go big with Harden, Kyrie, KD, Blake, and DeAndre Jordan, or you can go small with Harden, Kyrie, Joe Harris, KD, and Blake Griffin at the 5. And Blake Griffin by no means is a great paint protector or a super great rebounder or anything like that, but the versatility and spacing that he could provide on offense at the 5 and speed and just all the things that Blake is a very talented basketball player at his size. So, he just gives them a different look that you didn't have without him on that team. And I mean, he's a former All-Star, and before his injuries in Detroit, he was really starting to show what he could do. He's more than just a above the rim player. So I mean, he gives them a completely new look, and I think he makes them a lot scarier for teams that are contenders like the Lakers or the Clippers or the Jazz or the Sixers, whoever you want to throw in there. And I was talking about this with a friend of mine, that Blake joining the Nets, I mean, it makes them better, but that just solidifies to, especially me as a Laker fan, that the Lakers need to get that one more piece as well to match Brooklyn getting their one more piece, whether it's Drummond, whether I don't know, whoever it is, they got to get that one more piece, and hopefully someone that could protect the paint, because that's something that Laker fans have been begging the Lakers to do. And if they can get that one more piece, they can go head to head with the Nets. But if they don't get that by the trade deadline, I mean, it's the scale is starting to tip in the favor of Brooklyn. What do you guys think?
Right. To be honest, I think the same thing. Like, I feel like Brooklyn, I feel like, for Blake, this is, a tremendous opportunity for him. He's not exactly been on a winning team at Detroit. I mean, they've been pretty mediocre over the last few seasons that he's been there. So, being on a team like Brooklyn, with KD, Kyrie and James Harden, of course, those superstars, I feel like is a great fit for him. Being a Clipper fan myself, obviously used to play for the Clippers, and like that was during the Lob City days with DeAndre Jordan himself and, Chris Paul and all of them. So, I feel like, he's been wanting that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you, Daniel. I mean, you look at the addition of Blake Griffin to the Nets. This is a former number 1 overall pick who famously jumped over a car. I'm sure we all remember that. And he's a 6-time NBA All-Star. He's a household name. We all know Blake Griffin. But that version of Blake Griffin jumping over a car does not exist anymore. This is a version of Blake Griffin who has been hampered by numerous injuries, and he's not as dominant above the rim as he once was when he was on the Clippers with DeAndre Jordan, which again he's reunited with, and I'm happy that they're at a reunion together now in Brooklyn. But I feel like offensively, Blake does give them a little more versatility. I know when he was, I think the first couple of games with Detroit, I believe he was averaging like, I think 3.9 or like 4 assists a game or something like that. You know, that's something that I don't think the Nets really had at the 4 position. So that is something that he is going to bring to them. But he's, like you said, not a rim protector. He's not, you know, a very reliable big on the defensive end. And I feel like how far the Nets will be going will depend on, you know, defensively, whether they can get it together or not.
Next subject, LaMarcus Aldridge and the San Antonio Spurs are parting ways. He wants to be traded before the trade deadline, and everyone's been talking about where he can potentially go. Of course, the contenders are the team names that are first up, teams like Brooklyn, teams like the Lakers. I've heard people begging for a Portland reunion. And there's been a lot of talk about him going to Miami. And of all those teams that I've heard, I think Miami makes the most sense. And I mean, you guys will get into who you guys think the most sense for him to go. But I don't know. It's just Brooklyn. I don't think they really like it. The fit just doesn't make sense. He could help, but I just don't see it. LA, I mean, he brings more offense, but that's not really what they're really looking for. And Portland, it's the same thing. It's like, how much offense do you really need, Portland? Like you got Dame, you got CJ, you got LaMarcus. Like it's just like there's two sides of the basketball. But Miami, he'd be playing next to Bam, who is, you know, a very versatile big. He can get his own bucket, but he is a very good paint defender. And so putting him at the 4 next to Bam could be a good potential fit depending on what they give up. You don't want to give up too much for a guy like LaMarcus, he's a solid player, but you don't want to give up, you know, the house for him. So, I mean, what do you guys think about LaMarcus and where he'll go?
Right. Jeremy, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to think of like the Lakers, you know, I know that's been, like you said, one of the teams that have really been linked to getting Aldridge. And I understand that they're in the market for a big, especially because the Marc Gasol experiment hasn't really worked out for the Lakers as well as they would have thought. I mean, personally, like you said, I'm not really a big fan of him coming to LA. I don't think he doesn't fit what they're looking for in a big. Offensively, yes, he's nice. You know, he might not be what he was, you know, back in his Portland days, but I feel like he could be a good piece on some teams. I just feel like that wouldn't be for the Lakers. You know, I feel like they're looking for a different kind of big. I feel like, honestly, I think a Portland reunion might not be completely out of the picture. I think everyone kind of wants to see him go back to Portland. I know that's like the narrative that's been going around, and that's something that I can honestly kind of see happening.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna help them, but
yeah. I mean, like along with that, like, you know, LA, you know, like Jeremy said earlier, you know, that wouldn't exactly be a great fit for him. I mean, being that, like, most likely he'll be part of the rotation with, you know, the other 3 bigs that they have, you know, so like it's just kind of like, I don't know, like what do you want to go into a situation like that? Like, I understand, you know, winning a ring, you know, just winning in general, playing with a winning team in general, you know, is really big for him, especially, you know, being that he's, I believe, 32 years old already. I mean, it's, you know, it's pretty, it's not old, but it's pretty old, you know, for a basketball player. So, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, where does he want to end up? And like, you know, does he want to, you know, have a, you know, like a good time or a great time, in other words. So, you know, when it comes to Portland, you know, I'm glad Jeremy brought that up, you know, like, and you know, you, Daniel, brought that up, you know, is, you know, he's 32, like I said, and Portland has like little to no money. Like they have money, but like I don't think they have money like that. Like if they get LaMarcus, you know, say at like a decent enough price, they're gonna still have money left. But if they're thinking about like the future, and if they're thinking about getting another piece for their team, they won't be able to get it unless they give up something. They're gonna have to give up something. So they got Nurkic, they got Cantor, they got Covington already, and like as their bigs, and like Melo, I mean, he could play the 3 or the 4, obviously since he's getting a little older now. But like something has to happen for him to go to Portland. Like they have to give up something. Like it's not just he's just gonna go there and that's it. Like there has to be, a big incentive, like or a big thing to give up, in order for him to, reunite with Portland. But that's just the way I see it. Like it would be great, for the league. I feel like in general, especially like in the Western Conference, Portland has always, not exactly been up there, but they've always, been a great, or a good, playoff contender, definitely, a good team. But, if they're trying to find that one piece, I don't think LaMarcus would be.
He's not it.
I don't think, yeah. Like if you're trying to spend your money, like spend it on somebody that's that for a fact will have a great impact, like give you those 5+ wins, like at the end of the season, like at the end of the day, like obviously you want to win, but it's just if you're looking at your future and your future as an organization, like you obviously want the resources to go into next season feeling good. But if you spend those resources now, you might not have those resources to spend, next season, and you're just stuck with him,
Yep.
So I don't know.
I feel like Rocco is he has that spur feeling. I feel like if he were to go, if there was to be a trade between Portland, he'd probably end up in San Antonio. He just has that feel. It's that quiet guy, that 3-and-D guy who's a good defender who just gets his work done. But yeah, like you said, if you're Portland, I don't really know if that's the way to go right now. I mean, LaMarcus played in Portland years ago, and he said he wants to be in Portland one day. I just don't know if that one day is now. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. And we know San Antonio. San Antonio is where your publicity and your stock, like it's not that it goes down, it's that it's quieted. Like when have we really heard in the last couple of seasons talk about LaMarcus and what he's been doing, and talk about DeMar DeRozan and what he's been doing? It's like you hear talk about every team except for San Antonio. And honestly, I'm sure San Antonio does that purposely. That's been San Antonio's code for so long. But it's like because of that, because we really haven't been hearing that much, at least, from the media about guys like LaMarcus, it's like it gives us more questions about where he's going to end up.
And also like you're talking about Miami, that's like the most likely trade supposedly, like out of all, if a trade were to happen out of all the, all the trades. And if I'm not mistaken, they would have to give up Olynyk, oh my gosh, Olynyk, Leonard, and like a second round draft pick or something in order to get LaMarcus, which frees up some cap space for his contract coming in, which is good for the Heat, or great for the Heat. But at the same time, like, I don't think he's worth that. Like, that's just my opinion. I like Kelly Olynyk, Myers Leonard.
I like him. I like Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah. But like that, I think if they were just Olynyk and that second round pick, I would take that. But like
it's got to be
you're
more.
adding.
San Antonio would ask for more. San Antonio. I was talking about this with Jeremy. San Antonio has to ask for Duncan or Hero. I feel like every team that is in trade talks with Miami, it's like you're giving us one of the two white boys, and you're not getting away with it if you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if we're giving you something, we're not gonna just get trash players in return. Like, come on, like let's be real here. Like they're the Spurs. You know, they're one of the best organizations, you know, in the NBA as a whole. So, you know, they're not going to make those deals where it's just like, okay, we just want to get rid of you kind of thing. Like they would want something in return to like make their team better, or just, you know, maybe have a trade piece, you know, maybe, you know, get that, you know, like you said, that Duncan or, you know, Tyler, you know, maybe just hold him as a trade piece and trade him for somebody else, you know, like it's just business, you know. So I don't know.
I think it's interesting to kind of hear like the different teams that could possibly trade for him, because I feel like some of those teams have to wonder, well, how much does LaMarcus really have left in his tank, you know? And I think a lot of teams are going to try to consider, you know, maybe putting him in a reserve role. I feel like a lot of NBA players, you know, around that age, around 32, 33, you know, on the getting onto like the end of their careers, they're starting to transition into that type of game. You look at Melo, you look at, you know, Dwight Howard. There's a lot of veterans who have had to transition, you know, to be a reserve role. And you can see that some of them have thrived in it. You know, Melo's playing well for Portland. You know, we saw Dwight Howard play very well for the Lakers when they made their championship run. So I think, I mean, if LaMarcus is willing to, you know, be a reserve, or if he's willing to kind of feast on second units, you know, as long as he has that mid-range game that made him so feared, I mean, that this is something that, you know, no matter what team trades for him, he could still make an impact.
That's the thing though, and that's the thing. It's kind of a mellow-ish situation. Like we've always seen LaMarcus as, I mean, especially in the earlier part of this decade, he was one of the best bigs in basketball. It's not really seen that way recently, but it's like he's still that name, like especially among the NBA, like he's still got a name attached to him as someone that, I mean, he's gonna in some strange way command like some sort of starting role. But if that's untrue, like if he can come off the bench or be like a real role, not even maybe even like a super role player, but like part of that team, and not really like it has to be about him or he has to be like one of the top guys, he'll only make your team better in that situation.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that, because I feel like if he starts demanding stuff and he starts, you know, wanting the ball more, it's just gonna make the team worse, because that's just one more person to worry about, you know, one more person, you know, that could complain to your front office or something, you know. That's just, you know,
and we don't want to say we're like that either. We don't want to say he's like that, because we don't know
right,
how
exactly.
is. We're not
Of
saying
course.
he is going to say that. We're saying we hope he doesn't. And I mean, if he does, it's kind of like what we're going with.
But, you know, at the same time, you know, for any organization, you got to be willing to take that chance. You know, if you're trying to win games, you know, you just got to do what you got to do in order to win. So, you know, if that's the you know, gamble that they want to take, then so be it. You know, like you know,
yeah. And another name that just came up with, I mean, the same thing with LaMarcus was P.J. Tucker and the Houston Rockets. He is also wanting out of Houston and wants to be traded by the deadline. And someone that is impactful in his minutes, may not always show that impactfulness in the stat sheet, but he is an impactful player on the defensive end and being able to spread the floor. I mean, his time playing the center at 6'6" for Houston, it was wild, like really seeing that. And he was an important piece for a Houston team that took the Durant Warriors 7 games in the Western Conference Finals. So, I mean, sure, he's getting up there in age, but he can still be a valuable piece for whatever team ends up getting him. So, I mean, stuff is already starting to happen.
they're cleaning house.
Yep. We will see how and who moves in these next couple of weeks.
And just another thing to add is, I just think it's so crazy that with every trade that's going on, with every rumor that's going on, for some reason, it's always the Nets, Clippers, and Lakers that are tied to it. Always. With every player, it doesn't matter what player.
It's always that way, and especially in the era of super teams, when a decent name gets put on the market, I mean, that's everyone is ring chasing more than ever. So you would think that that's where they want to go. Everyone wants to go to a contender now, an established contender.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you look at Brooklyn, they have 2 roster spots to fill, and the Lakers have 1, and I can tell you that I don't think that Blake Griffin is the last player that the Nets are going to acquire.
Mm-mm. Nah, they're gonna get some role players. They're gonna fill up those. They have. I mean, they're going to. It's just I feel like they're gonna whatever they do next is gonna, man. It's probably gonna make or break their team, to be honest. Because like if they get even more depth, they're gonna be really dangerous. Like they're already dangerous as is. But if you add 2 more decent role players, like to add just further depth to your team already, they're gonna be unbeatable. If not, of course, the Lakers are literally the best, the other best team along with them. So, it's really gonna be, just who's behind the stars, in my opinion. Obviously the stars got to play great, but it's the role players like during the second and third quarter, especially like when but I don't know. That's just me. It's just being a Clipper fan. That's what I realized with my team. So it's just kind of the way things go for the Clippers. Like it's always our role players. It's not really our stars. I mean Kawhi, of course, but like people forget that Paul George, like he laid an egg like during the playoffs.
Oh, no, Chaz. No one forgets that. Don't worry. No one's forgetting that
Pandemic
anytime
P,
soon.
we don't forget.
I can't tell you how many times Pandemic P has been talked about on the podcast.
And he's a star, and I feel like the Nets are trying to get that those couple pieces that they need in order to fill in those gaps, just in case say KD doesn't really play well during the playoffs for some reason, which is highly unlikely, but say one of their stars,
the Nets could sign the 3 of us and they're still a contender. We could fill out the rest of their roster spot and they're still going to be whether they win or whether they don't is a different question of who shows up, but they could sign us. We could play a couple minutes a game and they still win.
Absolutely.
Brooklyn, if you're watching this podcast for some reason, we want 10-day contracts. That'd be great.
I'm dropping a couple dimes, guys. I'm dropping a couple dimes for real.
Seriously? No. Speaking of 10-day contracts, along with getting Blake, they had to waive Iman Shumpert, I believe.
And Andre Roberson.
And they both added them for 10-day contracts right after it. So like right after they, waived them and acquired Blake Griffin, they literally went on 10-day contracts. So which I thought was pretty funny, to be honest. But I mean, just the fact that they have those 2 guys, like, I mean, on 10-day contracts, which quote unquote basically means you're not good enough to, play on the team. Like that just shows the caliber of the Nets already. So, it's just crazy.
So moving on to the next topic, which is a lot of people, players, fans have expressed how angry and fed up they are at refs this season, how quick they are on their whistle, and how quick they are to eject players from different games. And I mean, players more than ever have been vocal, especially in post-game interviews, at how upset they are over refs and how they are officiating games. And I mean, there's so many layers to it, from Trae Young really abusing refs, like refs being on their whistle hard by, jumping into the back of or the front of defenders with his back the way that he does, and really playing the whistle, people being upset about that, to, like I said, the ejections and the calls. I wanted to get your guys' take on the refs this season, because there have been a lot of situations where it's like, yeah, that situation didn't call for an ejection, and a lot of people agree with that. Or you see an ejection one night and the next night you see someone do something worse and they don't get an ejection. So it's like, where's the objectivity here? Like the refs need to somehow be on the same page, because it doesn't feel that way right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing when you're rooting for your team and there's a bad call that doesn't go your team's way, but it's another thing where you see literally all across the league, all across the board, all these like obscure calls that are being made. It's just really, it really does open your eye a lot. When you start to see, all these, stars, all these, big figures in the league start talking about it. That's when it's beginning to be, a problem. And I feel like in a way, I know it's, not really, original to say, but like I feel like unfortunately for some reason I feel like the pandemic just, I don't know, it just had an effect on them. I'm not sure, like but I feel like they just, I don't know, I in a way they feel obligated and they feel like they need to make all these certain calls just because maybe last season they were getting a lot of criticism for not calling as much, not having all these you know making all these calls, blowing the whistle as much as they should have been. And so maybe they feel like they have the sort of job, they have this sort of obligation that they need to fulfill with making all these calls. And it's just really unfortunate that it happens all around the league, but in a sense that where people, players like Trae Young would adapt to that and use that as an advantage and all that. But I feel like at this point they're not going to change as far as this season goes. Like I feel like the obscure calls are still going to be called, all these technicals and all these these calls that players and fans alike don't agree with. I feel like they're still going to making those calls just because I honestly just feel like they have that thing in the back of their mind. Well, we need to do this. Like this is my job or whatever it may be. Like I need to make this call or else I don't know, they're gonna tell me. I don't know. It's really a double-edged sword. In other words, like, do you want to make this call and get criticized for it, or do you not want to make the call? And if it should have been called, you'll get criticized for it. So I don't know. It's just very slippery slope, but it's just I think it's really unfortunate for the league. So
Yeah, I think the job of a referee is always it's always a difficult one. I'll never sit here and say that the job of a ref is easy because there's decisions that they have to make on their part, and like Chaz said, there's some people who are going to criticize the decision, whether it goes one way or another way, but if I can actually be blunt, I feel like the refs this season are kind of soft. I feel like in previous seasons, they haven't been, making calls like this. And I've seen, technicals for a stare down after a dunk. And I've seen a technical called for a ref, a player just passing the ball to a ref and the ref wasn't paying attention. It hit him. He took it the wrong way and he got a tech. It's those situations where I'm thinking like, what happened to the refs? Like, where did they get so soft? Like, where was all this? Where did this all come from? And that's where I think a lot of fans have that frustration. It's not so much on certain decisions, that are in game situations. I think it's just more of calls like that are kind of frustrating to watch, and it's kind of making the game a little less fun to watch.
It's funny that you use the word soft because it makes me think of, you guys watch WWE back in the day when someone would barely touch a ref and the ref would all fall and pretend like he was hurt so that the wrestlers can do something. Is there a difference between NBA refs and WWE refs nowadays? Like any little thing sets them off and they're quick on their whistle and I don't know. I feel like it's this weird thing that I don't know. It's like they have to be right. Like sometimes I feel that way, that like they feel like they can't go back on a call, and I get you can, but it's like it feels like they have just a little bit too much power, just a little bit too much power in the stuff that they're able to do, and it's like Jeremy said, it's kind of like making the product not as fun, especially in those important situations where someone's getting ejected at the like end of a game for something so minor in an important game or a close game or something like that. Like that's BS, and everyone, like, we're all aware of that.
Yeah, and another thing, I feel like, excuse me, I feel like there's another factor in being that, I mean, it's pretty obvious in general that, you know, certain players of certain caliber could get more calls than another player, you know, that is of, you know, lesser, you know, known, or, you know, I don't know. It's just, I feel like that plays a role as well, because I feel like as a referee, like, being told what to do, I could see why that would, like, set you off in a way. Like, if you're constantly getting yelled at, you know, constantly, you know, arguing with players when it comes to calls, you know, I feel like that's something that might have set off, you know, the refs in general. But, you know, at the same time, they face that every season, so it's nothing new. But I feel like, I don't know. I honestly feel like they just got tired of it, and we're like, you know, just play the power play, and we're like, okay, we make the calls, we make the decisions. None of you guys could influence us, not the fans, nobody can influence us on the calls that we make, and whatever we say is final, and that's it. Like, that's, I feel like they just, you know, try to, you know, make this, you know, whole power play, and just, you know, plant their feet in the ground and just be like, this is how it is, and if you don't like it, oh well, sorry. This is the, you know, this is the call we made, and you know, I wholeheartedly, you know, agree with the call I made, and it's just, you know, my way or the highway kind of thing. So, you know,
And that's not something we want to see from refs.
yeah, yeah.
Never.
If you give them the opportunity to have that power, they're gonna take it. You know, they're gonna take that opportunity. So
Yeah. So if you guys are ready, I have 5 questions, multiple choice questions that I'm going to feed you guys. And I'm going to give you guys all the options. You each will choose one. Whoever gets the most of the 5 multiple choice questions right wins in the end. You win my brand new Luigi cup. I will mail it to you. And there will be some sort of alcoholic beverage inside.
What
Just
a
kidding.
fantastic prize.
we like that.
But if you guys are ready, we can start with the questions. Some of them are kind of gimmies, but I tried to get some kind of like obscure stuff, not like who was the MVP of last season, like some more obscure answers. So you guys ready?
No, I'm gonna lose it. Okay.
You have multiple choice though, so either way, every one you have a 1 in 4 chance, even if you're going for a Hail Mary. All right. So question number 1: Derrick Rose, very famously and sadly, injured his knee in the 2012 playoffs. That was the first ACL injury. His stat line at the end of the game, he had 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists before he was taken out of that game. How many minutes did he play that game before the injury? Here are your options: 33 minutes, 37 minutes, 41 minutes, or 43 minutes. And just not really a hint, but just a reminder, he was playing for Tom Thibodeau. And if there's something we all know, is that Tom Thibodeau loves to play his best players as many minutes as humanly possible, with like Jimmy Butler was playing like the entire games for under Thibodeau at times. So I'll read it to you again: 33 minutes, 37, 41, or 43. How many minutes did Derrick Rose play that game before getting injured?
I'll say 41. I'll say 41.
So 41C and 43D is what you're going with.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're both wrong. It was 37. He had played 37 minutes at that point.
That was my second choice. That
so
sucks.
0 for 1. Don't worry, you guys can.
Boy.
You guys will make
Oh,
it up.
boy.
I think the next two are
We're still
are
tied.
gimmies. Yeah, you guys are tied. Number
We're still
two,
tied. Whew.
the Celtics won the 2008 NBA Finals.
Mhm.
Who was the Finals MVP? Was it Rondo, KG, Paul Pierce, or Ray Allen? That's a tough one because some of those players were equally in importance at how good that team was. Who was the Finals MVP?
Read out the selections again.
Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, and Ray Allen.
Oh.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'll go with Paul Pierce.
Chaz?
I'm trying to remember.
I think it was Pierce.
I'm gonna go with KG. I'm gonna go with KG.
KG for Chaz, Pierce
Yeah.
for Jeremy.
I think it's
The
Pierce.
answer is Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce was the Finals MVP for 2008. And so that means, Jeremy, you're at 1.
Oh boy.
Chaz, you're at 0. So
Ooh.
1-0. Three questions left. So 2002 was the year that the Lakers three-peated, obviously led by Shaq and Kobe. My question to you is, in the 2002 playoffs entirely, who was averaging more points at the end of it? Now, a hint, and it may be a double, it may be a hint, it may not, but Kobe was averaging 3 more minutes a game in the playoffs.
So what are the two basically, right?
Yes, and the difference in points was only 2. There was only a 2-point differential between these two guys.
I feel like
Who was
it was
averaging
like 30
more
and 28.
points? If I remember correctly, it was 28 and 26.
28 and 26. I'm going Shaq.
With Kobe.
Shaq for Chaz and Kobe for Jeremy. The answer
I should have picked the obvious choice, huh?
is Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay. Was it like 28 and 15? Was he averaging or something? Because I don't know.
I don't remember the exact average, but he was averaging 28 points if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was talking about that on a open court on the open court show on a segment. I remember.
All right, so question number 4. Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, they are just he's won so many games with them. But how many games exactly? And here's how we're going to do it. Has he won more than 1,300 games or less than 1,300 games in his time in San Antonio?
In his time in San Antonio. Let's see.
I'm going more.
More, over 1,300.
Over 1,300, yeah. I think that's a little bit more.
Wait, let's see. I'm trying to think. Wow, yeah, he spent a while at San Antonio still.
The better part of 2 decades, if I'm correct.
Let's see, 20 years, averaging at least 50 wins. That gotta be more than 1,300. I'm saying more
More
too.
than 1,300. You are both wrong. Not including this game that they played today. Not including this game that they played today. He has won 1,295.
What the heck?
He was just. If I had asked you that question maybe a week ago, or I mean a week in advance, maybe he would hit that 1,300. Yeah, but 1,295.
Wow.
I got you guys that one.
5.
All right, we are tied going into the final question. So we will see who gets the Luigi Cup. LeBron James currently sits 7th in the all-time minutes played list. Now, is that more than 50,000 minutes or is it less than 50,000 minutes in his career that he's played?
It's a lot of pressure for this final question, you know, since we're tied.
It's all for the Luigi Cup. Big stakes, big stakes.
Is this including playoff minutes as well? Am I allowed to ask
Career
that?
minutes.
Career, just career. Okay.
Oh.
All-time minutes played for the
50,000.
NBA.
50,000.
I'll say
More
less.
or less than 50,000.
I'm gonna go
less
with
than 50,000 for Jeremy.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? I'll be different. I feel like it's less, but I'll be different and go more.
More for Chaz, less
So
for Jeremy.
This could be the decider. Here we go.
This is it.
For the Luigi Cup. It is less.
Oh.
He has played,
my
and this is gonna
gosh.
piss you off, Chaz. He has played 49,796 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, that's
250
literally
more
like
minutes, and it's a dozen games, maybe
Dude,
a little more, but yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. So
I didn't think it was that
congratulations, Jeremy.
close.
Man, I wish LeBron
close.
wasn't hurt now. Like,
Thank
what
you.
the heck, man? He wasn't hurt.
Congratulations, Jeremy, on winning. The
Congrats,
Cup.
congrats. Good game.
Thank you. Good game.
Yeah. I mean, not the easiest of questions, I don't think.
That was not.
Okay.
No.
Okay,
None of them were easy. No.
All right.
Yeah, I could have guessed anything.
All right. Well, with the Luigi Cup handed to its rightful winner, that marks the end of this episode of the Scoops podcast. I want to thank Chaz and Jeremy so much for joining me. You know, I love talking basketball. I love talking sports with you guys. So I mean, thank you guys first and foremost for joining.
No problem. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, man. This was fun. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah,
hopefully,
I really liked it.
Yeah. Super excited.
Yeah, cool. All right. And of course, thank you everyone for watching and tuning in, and we will catch you next time.
All right.
It's become tradition around here for me to ask a sign-off question. And my sign-off question for you both, and you will each get to answer it, is this. Well, first, I mean, I'd asked, Jeremy and I had an extensive conversation about whether each of us could defeat Brock Lesnar with a sword, to which we both said, absolutely not. Like, that's not even a question. In our last podcast, I asked Gino if he could survive jumping off of a 4-story building if he landed on a bouncy house. And the answer was yes. But a lot of people online on social media said absolutely not. And my question for this round is, you're in a field, okay? You're in an open field and you have a baseball bat, metal, wooden, whatever baseball bat you chose to bring that day. And from all angles of that open field, running at you are a bunch of 8-year-old zombies. All right. So children zombies running at you. And this isn't the Walking Dead zombie. This is Dawn of the Dead zombie, where they're coming at you full force, trying to rip your face off. Here's the question.
I know what's coming.
Here's the question. Obviously, they're going to get you, but how many of them will you get before you get got?
I think, okay, so this might just be me, but I think my baseball background would kind of give me a little more than 4. I think I'll lean towards 8. I feel like me playing third base and having to sit in a cleanup role for 10 years straight, I feel like that'll give my swing a little bit of a kick. And I think I could take down about 8, especially, I mean, I don't know if they're coming in waves or not. I think if they're coming in waves, then I might be screwed. But if they're coming like
all at once,
all
just
sides.
a bunch of them, all sides coming at you. Like, it's not like they're in a uniform line like they're in the army or something, but yeah, it's kind of like a wave of them, like a horde of them from all sides are closing in on you.
Like World War Z. Like
yeah,
World War Z
something like that. But I mean, they're all tiny humans. They're all kids, and it's not child abuse. They're already dead. You can't hurt something that's dead. So don't cancel my podcast, please. We're talking about zombies here, not actual kids. But how many of them are you going to be able to take out with that bat? You said 8?
I'll stick with 8. Yeah, especially with the size of 8-year-olds. I don't think 8-year-olds these days aren't that big. I'll stick with 8. I can take them out, and then I die.
I feel, you know, more Daniel's range. You know, I'm not really necessarily a big guy, so I feel like more like the 4 range, 5 range. But one factor that I did want to play is like if I'm mad enough, or like if I'm like angry enough, then I might get one more. Like that might put me over the edge of like the 5 range. Like the 5, maybe like clip the 6 like in the leg or something. Like, I don't know, just barely hit. I mean, honestly, first 2 that come to me, okay, right? I'm trying to play this out here. You coming straight at me, you know, I'm gonna face that person that, you know, the 8-year-old, you know, zombie that's like right in front of me, and I'm gonna face that zombie that's closest to me. That's one good swing. You know, I feel like I could trust myself with that. Second swing, I'm gonna look around me. I'm gonna be like, okay, here we go, 180.
Doing the helicopter.
Right, bam. Okay. Second, I'm all right. Okay. When it comes to 3 and 4 range, you know, 5 range, that's when I'll start to struggle.
They're jumping
like,
on you.
Here we go. Like,
they're jumping
now
on you.
They're jumping. Like, here we go. That's when it starts to get, you know, a little
and
erratic.
Then you're done.
You know, just kind of going
then
like
you're
this.
Done. You start to panic. You start to panic after those first couple.
So those first 3 is gonna make or break my career at
survival.
At survival, basically. You know, so like honestly, in my opinion, so if I was in a situation like that, obviously you're gonna die, right? Like you're not gonna survive that. So I mean, it sounds pretty morbid, but like I would like to die knowing that I got at least 4. Like that's my benchmark. Like,
all right,
I got at least 4. I'm cool with that.
You would like to die knowing that you murdered 4 8-year-olds before doing so. That's good to hear from you, Chaz.
We got you on your tombstone, Chaz.
Oh boy.
Here lies Chaz Kawamura, took down 4 8-year-old zombies.
We got you, bro. Don't worry.